You're watching the CG Live podcast. Now, the content for these podcasts are a little bit different than our normal pods as we bring on members and do long-form interviews. These were actually recorded live at our events with members that were going on stage to present, so the content is killer. Enjoy the show. Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast, the live Collective Genius Podcast here at our Q4 event. This is our CG CEO, and Premier Events Q4. And I am Leon Barnes, by the way, and this is Ben Nemtin. If you don't know Ben Nemtin, you need to know him. He is #1 New York Times bestselling author. This is his book. I read this on the way out here, and he just gave an unbelievable keynote. So many of you that are real estate investors that are watching this, you have a lot of purpose in your business, but you may be struggling on the other side, and Ben just helped over 200 people in the room with his Power of Purpose presentation, which was phenomenal. Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast, Ben.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here live and in person.
Live and in person. These are my favorite times when I have a keynote speaker come off of the stage and can just get kind of how they feel about how the presentation went, because you do this for a lot of different groups. I was just talking about pre-show, you intertwined what we do as real estate investors and solving sellers' problems and changing our communities one house at a time, how you intertwine that really, really well with your keynote. I thought it landed really well. How about yourself? How do you feel like it went?
I really had a great time, and I felt like everyone was really locked in. And I don't always do 75 minutes, which is what we did today. And when I do 75 minutes, I like to do an interactive piece, because my ultimate goal is to inspire people, leave them with the steps that they know they need to take. But then if they can take those steps in the room, that's the biggest win, because then they start to feel inspired through that action. And my ultimate goal is for them to create that momentum, to already feel the inspiration because they've taken the steps. And so that's what we did today. We had people writing down, first of all, thinking about what's important to them in their life outside of work, giving them a framework to think about different categories of life, and then writing those down to make them real, and then sharing them to also build accountability and to give other people the chance to help. And I know that Collective Genius is all about, growing in your business, but also growing as a human being. And so this is a lot of thinking about that purpose outside of work. So I thought there was a great response, and I had some actually really meaningful conversations afterwards. In fact, someone came up to me and share that they had just lost someone close to them. It was quite emotional. And one of the messages that I speak about is the idea and the truth that when you think about the end of your life, you think about your life. Like you get greater clarity. I mean, we hear this all the time. I got cancer, I beat it, and after that, everything changed. Or my mom or my dad passed away, and after that moment, it put things in perspective. Like, why do we have to go through a trauma or this type of near-death experience or the death of a loved one for us to wake up, to realize what's important? So ultimately, what I'm trying to do in some way is give people that experience without the trauma, right? Just try and shake people to really understand that our time here is limited. And by the way, when you do those things that are important to you, right? These things that you might regret not doing, the things you love outside of work, that's going to make you better for your team and ultimately in the work you do. And so for these folks, it's about giving them permission to do those things so that they can scale, right, and grow their business. They can be the best version of themselves and also invest in their team. And in this day and age, it's harder and harder to attract the right talent. And, in these times when the market is tight and it's very uncertain, your rock is your team. And so to be able to show up for them and to actually genuinely show that you care about them as people and ask them, hey, what's important to you? What are your dreams? What are your values? What do you love to do? How can I help you find that purpose here in the work we do, but also encourage you to find that purpose outside of work? Most people leave because of their leaders. And so you build that meaningful connection. And then, I was thrilled to hear that you had someone come and speak about the Dream Manager, because that's very intertwined with this
very much
philosophy. So a lot of really great connections, and ultimately just rallying everyone around the purpose of the job and impacting homeowners that are in a tough spot, right? Lifting that weight off their shoulders so that they can, move on with their life, and then also impact the community but then also connecting to purpose outside of the work.
What I loved about your story, and for those that don't know Ben's story, I want you to give us a kind of an elevator pitch of your story. But I think that I wanted to make sure that I got this across. What you said about growing teams, the people that are here, they cannot scale without teams. They understand that, but they may not know all the steps to get there. That's why they're in there. And they're open and honest about where they fall short. That's the key to the collective genius. If you are open and honest about where you struggle, ultimately there'll be someone in that room can help you, and more than likely you can help them with something as well. Your story started almost 20 years ago, and you were very open and honest of how your journey began. If you could just give the audience of how this journey got you to a point where you're now a keynote speaker.
Yeah. Well, it's a wild story, because I think, as all good stories are, it's an unexpected story, especially from where I started. I grew up in Victoria, British Columbia, small town in Canada, and I just put so much pressure on myself to succeed growing up. Didn't want to fail in school or in sport. Wanted people to like me. I just wanted to succeed, and that's not how life works. You're not in control of everything in your life. And as soon as I hit this moment where I realized I wasn't in control, and I had just been layering on the pressure to just be perfect, I kind of cracked, and I started to get anxiety. I started to get depression. I couldn't leave my house. I just buckled under all this pressure, and I never experienced these mental health challenges before in my life. And so ultimately, there are many things that kind of pulled me out of that. I ended up talking with a therapist. I talked with friends about it. I learned that I didn't need to put so much pressure on myself. And I think that part of this is the process of growing up. Sometimes you go through these challenges. So it's important for me to share these stories, because if someone's struggling, they think they're messed up. It's like, you're not. This is just part of growth. So out of that, when I started to realize that I was really impacted by the people I surrounded myself with. Like I realized that some people energized me and some people drew energy from me. And I thought, I need to be around people that energize me. Like I need to be around people that inspire me, because I was just feeling so down. And there were 3 friends that inspired me. And I gathered with them, and we decided to make a list of all of our dreams. And we decided to go after those dreams just on a 2-week road trip to see how many we could fulfill in the summer. And we committed to also helping other people achieve their dreams. So the mission was a 2-week road trip, go after our bucket list, and help other people achieve their bucket list items. And it was only supposed to be a 2-week road trip, but unexpectedly, people heard about it and they wanted to help. Strangers heard about it, word of mouth. This is, by the way, before social media. So this wasn't like going viral. This was local newses, people talking about it 20 years ago. And all of a sudden, people wanted to help us achieve our dreams. People sent us their dreams asking for our help. And it just started to go crazy around the world. News was talking about it, and we just kept doing it every summer. And the dreams that we thought were impossible, make a TV show, play basketball with President Obama, sit with Oprah, have a beer with Prince Harry, write a New York Times bestseller. Slowly they started to happen. And at the same time, we're helping other people achieve their dreams, and we're thinking, oh my God, when we help someone else, it means even more than these big dreams that we're achieving. And so I think that was a cool connection to the collective genius community, because you guys have this sort of pact to help other people. And so this journey led me to really, I thought this was about achieving bucket list items, but it really was a journey of self-discovery. And this list was a list of things that really a list of experiments to learn about the things that made me feel more alive, and then living closer to those things, right? And kind of this energy-driven living that led me to my true self, or my potential. And that's kind of when you dig into research, you learn like, oh, that's where happiness comes from. That's how you become unstoppable in your business. That's how you bounce back from illness. That's how you live longer, is connecting to that sort of energy, or that life force, or that purpose, right? And so it's been a wild journey of learning about really what is truly important in life, and then typically, like, ultimately what you end up regretting not doing at the end of your life.
We have people that are listening to this that are growing a business and work-life balance, or as you mentioned in your presentation today, work-life harmony.
Yeah.
This is something that a lot of people that are in that room, as well as that are going to or watching this live or will listen to this later, that are struggling with. And you just mentioned that there were so many synergies with what we do of being around, people that energize you. That's what the collective genius is at all levels. In addition to that, everyone there, they have a purpose of growing the business, and that may be to help others, but they're spending less time on that today. If I'm listening to this, what's the first step that I take? What's the 0 to 1 is a concept that we talk about a lot here. You're not going to get to 100 tomorrow, but 0 to 1, what's the best advice, first steps that someone should take to try to get some of this harmony from achieving their purpose beyond just the work?
Yeah. I think the first is the mindset of, if you feel like it's selfish to do these things because you're focusing on yourself, that's actually backwards. It's actually service, because when you do the things that you love, that are important to you, it actually energizes you to be the best in your work. And so it comes from research, right? I mentioned this on stage. If you spend 15 minutes doing something you love outside of work, you're more than 15 minutes more productive at work. So you get time back in your day because that's the work-life harmony. So one is just getting aligned with that truth that, okay, I don't not have time to do these things. Like I have to take time to do these things, or else I'm not going to be able to have the energy to serve my team and to serve my clients, et cetera. So that's the bedrock of this. And then the next step is, okay, what if you feel you're coming up with blanks? You're like, I don't know. I don't really have anything. I can't think about purpose. Forget about purpose. Just make a list of things that you think might excite you. A list of things that give you energy, a list of things that make you smile, or just that you might be a little excited to do, right? So for me, during the pandemic, I started playing tennis, and I fell in love with tennis. And when I get busy, I don't play tennis because I don't have time. And I have to physically stop and be like, oh, I need to prioritize this like I would an important meeting. Like if I set, I need to put in my calendar, I need to talk with people around me so they know that this is important to me. And once a week, at least I need to go play tennis. And I don't always do it, but the times that I do it is when I share that goal with people. So they know I put it in my calendar, I build accountability, right? So it's like, look at your list as a list of experiments, the things that you're just going to try, share commit to doing one of them, and then build accountability around them, because you'll always want to push it. Because there's no deadlines to do that. There's no deadline for me to play tennis with my friend. I can do it next week, and then it ends up not happening. So it's like, and what that does is that fuels me to just be better. So you stop, you write down some of these things. You don't have to think about achieving them. You just look at them as experiments. You try them, and if you get energized by it, you do more of those things. And then you carve out time, just like you would carve out an important meeting, to make sure you do those, and get an accountability buddy, right? If I'm commit to playing tennis with my friend, he's going to be upset if I don't show up.
That's right.
So you're 77% more likely to achieve your goal if you have someone checking in with you, or you have an accountability buddy. That's why you train with a personal trainer. You have the accountability of them being there, but you're also paying them, which is even more accountability. So accountability is king. If you can create accountability, that's the goal.
Well, we track KPIs for our businesses. I know that the people that are in that room, that at least from a health standpoint, that have shed pounds and found happiness in getting their bodies right to have some of that balance. What I've noticed is that every single one of them started tracking the KPIs of their health as much as they were tracking the KPIs of their business. I wrote 2 pages of notes here for me, because a lot of this relates to where I'm at in my life. A lot of people, there's multiple presentations on purpose at this meeting, because this group is typically people that have been in business 10 plus years, or generally 40 plus. And you start to achieve things, and yet happiness potentially goes down for a lot of the people in that room, because it's what's next, right? Yeah. And I wrote the happiness is equal to when you're moving towards your potential. Is one thing that I earmarked as I know that just like you at the pandemic, I started running. And I hadn't ran since college. And I did a 5K, and then I did an 8K, and then I was up to half marathons. And I remember in doing that, I had this, it wasn't just a runner's high. It was, I was getting better and going for longer runs and reaching my full potential. And I think that message, I know that message is one that resonates in that room. I would be remiss if I let you get out of here and no one asked you this because we didn't have a lot of time for Q&A, but you have 100 things that you guys wrote down as your bucket list of the things that you wanted to do, and I believe you're really close to accomplishing all of those. Are there any that are your favorites? I know that's like saying who's your favorite child.
That's usually what I say. Yeah,
right. Yeah. It's very hard to know what that would be because I would never say that. I have 2 sons. I know you. Just congratulations on having a daughter. Is there one that's 1 or 2? I guess that are your favorites.
Yeah, it is. I shared the story of playing basketball with President Obama. And the reason that comes to mind is because that was the most impossible thing we could think of when he got elected. We just thought, how cool would it be to play basketball with him at the White House? Or Canadian. I mean, we have no business being at the White House, let alone playing basketball with the president. And we must have got hundreds of no's, just so many no's that that became the expected response. Like we knew we were going to get no's. And we just didn't care. We just thought we're going to keep going. Something's going to get through. Something's going to get through. And unexpectedly, I literally think the White House felt bad for us. They were like, okay, you can come to the White House basketball courts. And while we were there, President Obama surprised us. We didn't even think he was in town. And it was a total moment where I realized, wow, I thought this was impossible. I'm watching it happen right now with my own 2 eyes. I guessed anything is possible because I was convinced this would never happen. And so it changed my belief system where I thought moving forward, if there was a challenge, I didn't think, can I do this? I thought, do I want to do this? Is this aligned with everything that I want in my life right now? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to take a shit ton of work, but it's possible if I commit to it. And so that was a sort of a defining moment. And I think that, I do want to mention, because what you brought up, I think, is important around this moving to your potential, because this onion sort of keeps going. You can peel back the layers again and again, and it gets to not only the regrets that you have, but the length of your life. And there's this research where they looked at people that, what happens when you don't live aligned, right? When you're living the life you don't really think you should be living. There's this low level stress in your body, and it creates this cortisol because you're actually creating tension in your body. And there's this low level cortisol that is always in your body because you're not at peace. And that shortens your life more than diet, more than exercise. And so this, I like this also, that, and I didn't look at the research, so I don't know if this is truly a fact, but I do think it's interesting. They look at, the blue zones, right? People living so long. Where I read this thing, again, not substantiated by research yet, but I don't know. But it said, is it the diet? Is it that they're walking at elevation, or is it that they're living true to themselves? They live simple lives that are aligned and that they don't have that stress. So I know in my life, my experience is when I've hit these depressions in my life, right? And I told you about the depression when I was in university and that first big dark depression. Well, I've been through a few depressions since then. Not as big as that, but I have been through at least 2 or 3 other major low points in my life. Every time I've been through a low point, a major part of my life is out of alignment. It was either a relationship that needed to end, it was my job, right? Or something where I wasn't aligned, and I was suppressing my true self. And the root word for depression is suppression. And for me in my life, again, depression is complicated, but in my experience, that has been a consistent thing. So I think that it's so much deeper and more important than we think, right? And it's you can kind of tell yourself this story like, you know what? I don't know. Playing tennis is not important. I don't need to do that. It is important. Those are the things like running. It is important. That is your part of your life force. And so I just encourage people to commit to it. Commit to protecting time for it. Take a tiny step. Just chip away at it. And that's the name of the game.
Find it. That's that 0 to 1 that we were talking about before. I can tell you that my life force continues through 3 times a week. I have a group of guys that hold me accountable to play basketball at 5 a.m.
I love it.
So if we're playing at 5 a.m., you can do some of these other things
That's
at
great.
5 p.m.
Yeah.
Ben, I can't thank you enough. What a great presentation. It was a perfect message at the right time. If people want to follow you or reach out to you for their events, what's the best way for them to follow you?
Yeah. I'm most active on Instagram, so that's the best. Just my name at Ben Nemtin. And if you're doing an event and you're looking for a speaker, you can just shoot me an email at Ben Nemtin. Or sorry, my email is just, my website's the best. Just go to bennemtin.com and then shoot me an email.
Awesome. Great. Well, that is our first live pod of our Q4 event. Ben, thank you so much for being our first guest of the day. We will be back with additional episodes throughout the day, today, tomorrow. If you are interested in being in a room with great keynote speakers like Ben Nemtin, the easiest way to do that is go to our website at explorecg.com. There you'll find all the information if you're a full-time real estate investor looking to grow and scale not only your business, but your life. That you can find there at explorecg.com. And look forward to seeing you on our next live podcast, which is coming up soon. See you then.
Are you ready to scale your real estate business? Visit thecollectivegenius.com, where real estate investors come to scale. Subscribe to the Collective Genius podcast and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next episode releases. And thanks for listening.